This week I am tackling one more project from my mother-in-law's closet, the Paisley Kaftan. So as many of you already know, a little while ago I went thrifting in my mother-in-law's closet. If you want to see that haul video and you haven't yet, I will link that in the card above and I will link it below. And I have been sort of picking away at refashioning stuff that I found in her closet. Now my original thought was like I would take this fabric and make it into a skirt or a top or something like that, but unfortunately the fabric had some pilling. It wasn't in the best shape. And the funny thing, after I did my original haul video, is I had people contacting me like, oh my god, you want more kaftans? Like, I've got 3 hanging in my closet. Oh, I had one that I bought to wear after surgery and I didn't. Oh, I got one on holidays and I never wear it. So clearly I have some sources if I want to do more kaftan refashions. And so because the fabric on this one was sort of pilled and not in the best of shape, I decided to just make this one into an open bathrobe. I'm not one that likes to pull stuff over my head. My hair gets fuzzy and it's just not my kind of thing. So I thought I would just make it into a bathrobe. So we're going to put a collar on it, and it has to be sort of weighted because to just cut straight up the center and then tie a tie around it. The thing that's not going to work about that is this fabric is so light and it's so slippery that if you just cut it up the center and try and wear it, it's constantly going to be wanting to like slide off of your shoulders if you don't happen to have it tied. I just didn't want to have to deal with that, so I needed to make sure that the collar was heavy enough that if I'm wearing it open, it will just hang there nicely and not be trying to escape off my back. So let's get to it.
All right, let's get a reminder of what we're working with here. It's a clip from the haul video. Now, I don't know what happened to my footage of me opening up the front of the garment. I literally just marked out the center and cut up the front, but I don't have it on video. So the next thing I did was I went with my coordinating fabric. This is fabric that I had in my stash, and I'm cutting some 5-inch strips and I'm cutting some 4-inch strips, and I'm just cutting them straight across. The only part that I need to be cut on the bias is the part that's gonna have to curve around my neck. And for that, I have this little like weird offcut that was there. So I'm just going to cut that on the bias and use that for around the collar. Now this is the bias cut piece, and I'm just going to straighten up the edges of it. Once that's ready to go, I'm going to take the longer strips, and these are the 5-inch strips that I'm working with. And I'm going to pin the long strips onto either end of the shorter bias cut piece. So this will give me the bias cut piece around my neck and then the 2 long strips to hang down the front on either side. It doesn't look like it because the fabric is so shiny, but I am pinning these right sides together. And here we go, we have our big long strip with our bias cut piece in the middle that has a bit more stretch to it. Now I'm going to press these seams. Once I have those pressed, I'm going to fold our big long strip lengthways with wrong sides together, and I'm going to give that a good crease. Once I've got that center crease, I'm going to fold one side again into the middle. Now I've got my garment here, and I'm just marking the center of the back, and I'm just going to mark that with a pin. Now I'm going to mark the center of the small bias cut section in half as well. Once I have my centers marked, I'm going to pin them together with right sides together, and I'm pinning my wider edge of my bias tape, the one that is not folded, onto my garment. Once I have that pinned all the way, I'm going to trim off the excess, leaving about 1/2 inch of extra at the bottom. Now I'm going to go ahead and stitch that with a 1-inch seam. Once that's all stitched on there, I'm going to go and press that seam down. And I'm being careful that I'm not going over the creases that I have already put into that bias tape. Once I've got that all pressed down, I'm ready to fold my bias tape all the way over. But first I have to bring that bottom edge up and tuck it in. Then I can complete the fold of my bias tape and pin it all down. Now while I'm folding my bias tape under, I'm making sure that the side that's coming underneath onto the wrong side of the fabric is actually going to overhang or go further into the garment than the part that's folded over the top. And I'm doing that so that when I go to stitch it on, I can be really sure that I'm going to catch that bottom side of the bias tape on the wrong side of my fabric, because I'm going to stitch in the ditch on the top. Once I have that all pinned, I'll stitch that. As you can see, I've got my 4-inch pieces for my ties pinned together, and I am going to stitch those diagonally. Then I'm going to trim off the excess before opening that up, and you can see that that gives me a beautiful, perfect continuous piece with a nice angled seam. Now I'm going to layer the pieces for my ties, and I'm going to stitch all the way around and on one end, but I'm going to leave the other end open. Once I have those all stitched, I'm going to clip my corners on the stitched end just to take out any bulk. Now I'm going to pull my two sides apart so I can kind of create a little bit of a pocket at that stitched end. Once I push the fabric in there, that kind of makes the pocket, and it just gives somewhere for the ball of my knitting needle to go. And I'm going to, just grabbing the seam allowances on either side of my piece, I'm going to slide that down the knitting needle, and that's going to turn the whole strap. As you can see that it's all pooling at the bottom, I just continually go and pull the excess off of the knitting needle, and by the time I get to the end, I can pull it all right side out. Now that that's done, I'm going to go down the length of my ties, and I'm just going to use a pin to pull the seam all the way out so that I can make sure that I'm getting the full width of my tie when I go and press it. Sometimes those seams like to kind of pucker inwards, and you just need to kind of take your time and pull those out. Once I'm done that, I can go ahead and give it a good press before I stitch it. And I'm just going to go around the edges and top stitch it to keep it nice and straight. After I did that, I went and did the exact same thing, but on a much smaller scale with a little piece of the main fabric from the kaftan that I took out of the back facing. I made 2 little loops in exactly the same way, and I'm just folding under about 1/4 inch of the raw edge. These are going to be my little belt loops to keep my ties attached to my garment. When I stitch those on, I'm going to run a stitch really close to the end, and then I'm going to run a stitch just past that raw edge, so everything will be nice and tucked in. I put my kaftan on and I marked where I wanted the belt loops to be, and then I transferred that same marking onto the other side. So I've got that marked with a pin, and now I can just pin my belt loops on and give those a stitch, and I'm done.
So there you have it. I have my super comfy bathrobe for lounging about the house, which of course I do all the time. Or maybe I'll get to start when my kids leave home. I hope that you found this refashion helpful. I hope that maybe if you have a kaftan lying unused in your closet, you'll give this a try. Or try something else. There is a ton of fabric in a kaftan. Why not? I mean, better than just having it sit there, right? So if you try something, please let me know in the comments or tag me on Instagram. I will link my Instagram below, or you can use hashtag sewingwithstephyyc. Other than that, I have nothing else for you this week. Do all the things, like, share, subscribe, and have a great week.